The party hits full swing an hour later. Look at all those gowns. With the host's opening remarks given, still no sign of her husband, the poor woman, and the guests promptly fed, the band shifts the melody to a livelier tune. Soon laughter and the rhythmic tapping of shoes fills the room, all in accordance to the lifting strains of music. It seems fun, I admit. Fascinating at certain moments, the flurry of dancers making the music their own, almost with no care in the world. If I weren't so indisposed, I'd have joined the crowd for a song or two. There isn't a lack of invitations anyway, plenty of them in fact, with some asking more than once. It's only my stubborn refusal that prevents me from joining them. And I can. A single nod is all it'll take, and the evening would have been far enjoyable for me. But pride in my own silly hopes, the thought of being seen with one of them by him, curbs that, as much as I hate to admit it. It's a hard truth to swallow, especially when the very person at the center of it makes denial difficult. Can't even spare me a minute of his attention, or a single glance at me the whole evening. Hell, Zachary might have spoken more words to me. The big guy's busy covering the event to boot. But at least he manages to slip in a conversation or two between takes, or a small wave of his hand when he passes by. What's Ashton's excuse? He's been flitting in and out of sight the whole time. One moment he's hanging around a small group, in another he's hovering around the string band. Just a second ago, he's wolfing down some deviled eggs by the buffet table, a glass of wine in hand. The next thing I know, he's gone. If I didn't know any better, I'd say he only agreed to come with me for another reason.
I swear, the next person who asks, I'm dancing the night away with. Ashton can go fuck himself.
You would catch his eye a lot better if you wore nicer clothes, don't you think?
Her voice almost makes me jump, too focused on the gobshite wandering around the ballroom and my own annoyance to notice. If she's heard any of the profanities I've mumbled, or she's taken notice of my discomfiture, she makes no comment on it, merely greeting me with a smile when I turn my attention to her. Miss Hannah Wright gives off a whole different air when she's not speaking to an audience. Homely, a bit too friendly for my liking. But I guess that comes from being raised in such an environment and having to deal with pompous, snooty people. Yeah, she's always twirling her hair. Though I suppose nothing has really changed from years ago. I remember her carrying herself in the same manner during that one and only visit. Does she remember any of it? I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't. It has taken me a while myself. She's probably met a lot of people like little Becky throughout the years, might have already forgotten about me or my parents. People like her thrive on connections after all. Nevertheless, I return her smile, awkward and stiff as it may be.
Didn't realize the housewarming was going to be this fancy. I would have gone with a nice dress if I knew.
Oh, you're fine, dearie. It's only really the parvenus, those who climb, that come to these parties all dolled up. Quite the black-haired beauty, isn't he?
It takes me a while to realize who she's talking about, until Ashton walks by again. In closer proximity than any of the times he has done so far this evening. Still without a look of acknowledgement our way, though, even if Miss Wright speaks loud enough to catch the attention of anyone within earshot.
Who, Ash?
You know, you really shouldn't have turned down those offers. If I wasn't married, I'd happily go dancing with those young men. But you said a name. Ash. That's the exquisite lad you've been looking at all this time. I don't know him, and I'm the one hosting this party. That must mean you know each other. Is he your boyfriend, then? Because that would explain those rejections.
This isn't the first time someone has made that assumption. Almost every student I've had in the past did, my coworkers, more often than not, assume he is. A few of my neighbors also think we're an item. Not that Ashton has ever reacted to those. He's been quite indifferent about it, in fact. Still, the heat of a blush creeps up my cheeks, a denial ready, despite wanting it to happen so badly myself.
What? No, that's ridiculous. He isn't my boyfriend.
Such a violent reaction. A simple no would have sufficed. Many here would be happy to hear it.
And I haven't been looking at him.
I do my best to summon a straight face, but before her good cheer, it easily falters.
That's right. You've been staring. Quite heatedly, in fact. Although I'm not sure if you look like you want to kiss him or kill him.
It's more the latter currently.
Just don't go murdering him on my property. I don't want to walk into a room and suddenly find a body there.
It's infectious, in a way. No sooner I find myself enjoying our chat more than I've imagined myself to. Although her attention briefly wavers at one point, she remains a good companion. Even more once I've mentioned who my parents are, her face quickly lightens up and fondness graces her face, despite the meeting from several years ago being a short one. But of course, there are some things we really can't avoid talking about. After all, it's one of the few things I remember her asking me the moment she spotted little Becky in the room. Do you have a boyfriend? In retrospect, it's an odd thing to talk about as children when there are loads we could have started with.
Yes, oh, I remember you. You were the cutest little thing with glasses.
With glasses.
And when we met, you were having boy troubles with this lad called something with an A.
I believe I still have the clothes she gave me, chosen all so I could impress him. And even back then, Ashton has always been denser than a rock, and that one attempt to get him to notice backfired spectacularly. Sure, he's keen. He's a detective, for heaven's sake, but feelings, more often than not, escapes him.
What was it again? Aaron, Alan, Adele, Albert, Alexander, Andrew?
Which makes the whole talk all the more embarrassing. And the more names she lists off, the more my discomfort grows, until my smile turns into a grimace. What will she think of me? Here she is, married to a man she most probably loves, at that, while I'm still stuck in the same place, yearning for the same person.
Ashton! Ash! That man is that boy! The same one. Oh, goodness me, after all these years! I can see why, though. He's quite dashing.
You don't really need to announce it to everyone within earshot, you know? Keep it down.
I'm so sorry, but it really is cute.
She says that, but for a short moment, a hint of pity flickers in her eyes. I take that as a chance to change the subject, before anything more can be said over the matter. I haven't even sorted these things out for myself.
So, this is a nice party, Miss Wright.
Though, to be frank, I doubt she'll be so willing to pass this up. The topic has already captured her attention.
Please, Anna's fine. We're friends of a sort, aren't we? We must be friends, seeing as I know about your little infatuation, Becky. Don't you worry, dearie. You'll have your happy ending yet.
I'm not too concerned about that, am I? That's not what I'm looking for.
Oh? And what makes you think that? Doesn't everybody want their happy ending?
The idea of happy endings sounds like they're just for fairy tales. And they are, sorta. I don't think you can just sit around, trapped in some tower and hope for the best. If you love them, you have to fight for it, right? You're not just going to sit there and hope that everything will just fix itself on its own. Like everything, you have to work at it.
So you have to do the thing that you're not doing.
Hypocrisy. That's what this is.
She admits it, at least.
How dare I preach about something when it's exactly what I've been doing? And then, I go and act as if I'm entitled to any of it. That by virtue of us growing up together, he must return whatever I feel for him. That he's not allowed to look at another because I'm the only one who has stayed by his side the longest. When in the first place, Ashton has always been his own person. This is something I cannot force on him.
Expectation, obligation, the woes of affection, etc., etc.
I can only hold on to these. Take care of it until the time comes I can confess it to him. Great if he reciprocates, but if he can't? If he won't? Selfish. I've been too selfish.
But what do I know?
I'm sure the daughter of the two greatest professors I've ever known is smart enough to know what she's talking about.
At one point, maybe I would have easily agreed to that. However, the past weeks has also seen changes in the way I view things. As nice as these things sound, it turns out whatever I previously know may not even be true for other people, or for myself. It is sobering, and almost funny how things I might have said with much certainty before now has doubts muddying each of them. But there will be no time to mull about these later, because when a hush suddenly descends in the room, a whole different issue rears. Especially when fucking Luke, strides into the now quiet ballroom, fashionably late and oozing with the same pompous mine he always carries around with him.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Enjoying the party? I hope I'm not too late in welcoming you all to the right mansion.
Before long, Hana leaves my side to join him, and it doesn't take a genius to piece it all together.
Welcome one and all to our humble abode. Tonight, if you have yet to find yourself in your roles, you are all ladies and lords of the court of your king and queen, if you would excuse my presumptuousness. So, enjoy the feast that has been laid out for your senses as we only allowed the best to be served. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone!
His attitude, the manner he carries himself around people, his unfamiliarity with that part of the city. Of fucking course. I should have known. Although I'm partly at fault here, tabloids and the gossip columns have never really been my thing. I should have also expected that where Luke fucking Wright is, some sort of drama will sure follow. He seems the kind of person who revels in it, figures it'll find him on its own, even when he's not asking for it. It happens amidst a round of applause and hoots that people lagging behind the crowd they've gathered does not catch on until the cheers turn into several scandalized gasps.
I am pregnant with your little bastard. You promised me you'll take responsibility.
Johannes, get her out of here.
God damn it, Luke. I finally got you to talk to me after months of silence, and you do this to me.
What do you mean you're pregnant with? Luke, is this true?
Lies and slander, woman! Security! Johannes, take her out of here before she makes an even bigger fool of herself!
No, you do not do this to me. I was so ready to leave my stupid oaf of a husband. I told you to leave that damn wife of yours. Look at her. Does she look like she wants a baby?
She wants one so badly, doesn't she?
Does she look like she could take care of a baby?
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The commotion doesn't go further, despite the drunk woman appearing like she has plenty more venom to spill. In a little while, security shows up, escorting her out. Apparently, she's the chief inspector's wife, too. As if this whole thing can't get any more fucked up than it already is. What a mess. But the damage has been done, and beyond the repercussions this'll bring, I'm more worried about Hana. Maybe Luke, too, in part. I've seen the man that hides behind his self-importance, and it is someone who cares for the person who stands beside him. No matter how questionable that is now. After all, no anger is worse than that of a scorned woman. And Hana, well, as refined and well-mannered as she is in front of their guests, I'm not sure if she'll be all too willing to tolerate this. Her party, her home, her husband, and that woman had just dared to walk over it. Yet when I glance at her, there's only defeat, a weary slump on her shoulders, and a certain depth to her breathing. Like the fight has already been drained out of her long ago. I don't know since when this has been going on. I don't know either of them well to judge for myself. I'm simply an outsider who happens to have some kind of connection with both of them. But the air of a person who wishes for respite? Respite? It's all too easy to see in her, as she quietly watches the commotion carry on around her. In a moment, before I can think it through, I'm pulling her to the side and waving Zachary over to us.
Becca, this is a real oh, hey, Miss Wright.
Hello, Zachary. I told you to call me Hana. Did I not?
Yeah, you did.
Admittedly, this air of familiarity between them catches me off guard. I won't put it past Hana. Her standing in society compels her to keep appearances, the be nice to everyone sort of thing. While Zachary's growing client base sometimes calls for rubbing elbows with the rich and famous. Although from the way it appears, this one seems to go beyond maintaining a facade for work. I wonder how this friendship came to be. I'd ask, but we're starting to attract some curious eyes. Most of them are probably searching for more gossip, something to add fuel to the fire. Thankfully, there's no need to explain it to Zachary. He's aware of the situation all too well.
So, this is what you called me for? We gonna get Hana out of here?
That'd be great.
Soon, he's leading the three of us out of the ballroom. Anyone who dares speak or approach on our way out, I shut down with a sharp glare. In a few steps, we're out, away from the commotion and the suffocating tension. I don't stay long with them, though. Even if I want to, Ashton's still somewhere in that crowd. I've got to go back for him at least. No matter how much the idea of that alone sends an unpleasant twinge in my stomach.
Hey, I gotta go back in there. Completely forgot my bag like an airhead, and I'll see if I can tag Ash on the way out. You'll be fine here, right, Hana?
Not to worry, dearie. I'll just be right here.
Zach will be with you if you need anything.
Besides, it seems Zachary can handle this without another person helping out. In fact, for some reason, I've got this strange impression I might be intruding on something if I elect to remain. Better to entrust this with someone she's comfortable with. And though it might be a little inappropriate considering what has transpired, a smile worms its way to my lips as I leave. Good on them, I suppose. Chatter has exploded throughout the whole ballroom once I return. Worried murmurs, clicks of tongues, and inappropriate gossip filters through the thick tension in the room. Most of them haven't even left the premises and they're already talking about it. Tomorrow it'll be on the news for sure, in every local broadsheet and tabloid in Luxburn. No wonder Luke's knee-deep into damage control. With the scandalous woman gone, he has turned his attention on the media covering the event. Though so far, he isn't faring well in the cleanup department.
Now, people, we all know the drill. I'm sure you're all itching to get a start on those articles.
Good thing Zachary isn't here. I can't imagine a man of his temperament dealing with someone like him.
But if I read one word, see one picture about this come morning, even a single shot of the bloody wine glass the harlot held, you will all lose more than your jobs.
Luke's diatribe?
Diatribe.
What does that mean? Like, I can guess, but I've just never heard that word before. It goes on for another few minutes, after which he excuses himself out of the area. There's a brief lull, a reluctant pause before the place comes astir again, but shortly the buzz returns. Dancers have once again taken to the floor and their guests' excited talk begins anew. But I couldn't care less about any of this now. Simply standing in the middle of it already gives me a headache. When the shock has faded, I just feel bone tired. I've accomplished nothing of what I've come here for, and apparently Ashton's disappeared sometime during the commotion.
With the chief?
I'm not sure what pisses me off more, that he ignored me the whole evening and might have just left without saying anything, or knowing he obviously has some other motive for being here. Can't he at least trust his friends for that?
He didn't have to lie to me.
It's the last straw. No longer in the mood, I grab my bag and head out, more than ready to end the disastrous night as early as possible. As it turns out, the night isn't done with me yet. Because no sooner has the porter closed the door behind me, I find myself standing alone in the foyer with one Luke Wright. No sign of Hana or Zachary. Just him and the agitated clicks his shoes make while he treads around the empty room. Away from the media's prying eyes and their guests' judging stares, it's easy to glean how much this scandal has shaken him. Not to the point where he has utterly lost his composure, he appears to have mastered himself enough not to. But an ample opening is there for a nervous edge to show on the lines of his shoulders.
What do you know?
What? The man is not as tough as he makes himself out to be. Sure, I've seen this before, briefly in that 1 second in the hallway at school. It's a strange matter, however, to witness this out in the open. Behind closed doors, this is the real Luke Wright. Though maybe that's because he hasn't noticed my presence yet. Busy as he is with his thinking. If he's aware, I doubt he'll be acting like this. His pride is one thing he will always wear with him. even now when I place a gentle hand on his shoulders and he whirls around to face me. There's a second-long moment of anger flashing across his features before it dissolves into confusion. He tucks it away as quickly as he can, but it does nothing to change the impression I've built of the man in my head.
Daisy, must you be everywhere?
We've only met 3 times, Luke. Quit the dramatics. Besides, shouldn't you be aware of who gets invited to your party?
If I was, there wouldn't be any of that scene tonight. That munter wouldn't even get an inch within this property. I'd banner off Luxborn if I could.
He probably pawns everything off to their servants in Hana. Pompous, elitist douche.
Did you just come out here to lecture me about it? Because, Daisy, I can already feel one coming tomorrow. I don't need to hear one from you tonight.
You are a very unpleasant man.
So I've been told. Will that be all? If so, I suggest you go back and join every bloody goss in that room.
Not everything. As unpleasant and frustrating talking with this man is, he deserves the benefit of the doubt at least. The questions and criticisms aren't lacking, of course. But right this instant, there's only one that comes to mind.
Both of them don't sound like the best things to say.
Right. That was my initial thought. I think it also depends on how she says it, though, and that's the worst thing about this game.
That's the worst thing, is that she's gonna say either of these pretty mean.
Right. Yeah, when she
Well,
came
like,
out
is
here...
it true? Is it true? That's like the only way to... There's not really a nice way to say it. It's like, so... And that's
Well,
just, that's gonna
no.
piss him off, saying, is it true? He's gonna get really super pissed off. Like, 'cause you think about... If you think about, when we were playing Hana, and they... Was it breakfast the next day? I don't know what it was, but they talked sometime after the party, and he just, like, flipped his shit out on her because she believed... Rochelle, that's her name. So that makes me feel like asking, is it true, isn't a good thing to ask. But saying, you should be with your wife, they're just gonna get angry because, like, you mean the wife that, you know, just kind of disappeared after all of that? It's like both of these are just gonna piss them off, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I didn't think of... When she first walked out here, I thought she was going to try and be nice to him initially. But now she's already, like, kind of yelling at him because that's their relationship.
Well, she came out here because I thought she wanted to leave.
Well, yeah, but when she saw him, I mean. But I guess I imagine her asking, is it true? Like, like in a nice way. Do you know what I mean? You don't know what I mean. Like, more like, do you want to talk about it kind of thing. That's where I get the impression that first one is going. The second one just seems so strange to me.
Well, I mean, like, in that kind of a situation, like, you should, after tending to whatever the heck just happened, you should go to your wife and, like, hey, what's up? You want to talk? Like, how are you feeling after all of that? We should talk about this. Like, whether that's now or, you know, tomorrow or something.
Right. But I mean, we both know tomorrow's not going to go well either way.
Well, tomorrow they yell at each other and it's like, I'm thinking we should, like, you know, have some time apart. And then there's the freaky thing about going down into the cellar, which they didn't do. And they just, like, collapsed crying, holding each other in the kitchen.
Oh. What do you think?
Like, trying to filter through Becca is really difficult. I would say, like, I would not word it the way the second one is, but I would lean towards the sentiment of the second one, but I don't know how Rebecca's gonna say it.
Right. Okay, let's just do the second one then.
Yeah? Okay. All right. Come on, mouse. There we go. Second one it is then? You happy with that?
I don't care.
Okay.
You know, brooding over here isn't going to fix this mess.
Great.
Again with the lecture.
Yeah,
Will you stop calling it that?
I figured she'd say it kind of mean.
Well, she hasn't said it yet.
Very well, what should we call this then? A heart-to-heart?
That was the idea, Luke, but you're being a dick.
Please don't. I might puke. And just so you know, I don't want to talk about feelings. Ever.
This isn't one, all right? It's just a friendly concern. Bloody hell, can't you just take it for what it is?
He pauses at that. Suddenly, he doesn't know what to do with his hands, and in the end, he simply stuffs them back to his pockets and sulks. There probably aren't many people who tell him that. He's a difficult man to get along with, after all. I honestly won't give him a second of my time if I didn't see a different side of him. Dealing with him requires more than patience. When the awkwardness passes, mostly coming from him, he merely glances away. But the tightness in his shoulders has eased, and when he speaks again, despite his rather rude choice of words, none has any venom in it.
Friendly concern, right. While we're at it, I should mention that Hana used to call that Viper friend. Now I think she might want to strangle the Munta if she sees her again. After she's done with me, of course.
I doubt she's going to do anything like that.
What do you even know about this?
Oh, I know enough. You may look like a sleazy douche, and you still are, by the way.
It's almost comical how fast his face shifts from mild disdain to offended, but I don't let it distract me. These things need to be said, and he needs to hear them. Even though they're coming from some meddling stranger.
But you have your few good moments. I might even say that you're a decent person, if I'm in the mood.
Now go. If you really love her, you've got to try and fix this yourself.
Maybe tomorrow.
Luke!
Daisy, did you see her earlier? Was that the face of a wife who wants to have a chat with her cheating husband?
Well, at least you admitted you did something wrong. Good for you. How about a star? Would you like a star to go with that good deed?
Don't get used to it. Do you realize how awkward this is?
Yes.
Oh, I do.
Before I've even thought about what to say, I've known that there can only be two ways this can go. All things considered, it isn't as bad as I've assumed. However, there are still some things my brand of encouragement can't fix. His marital problems, first and foremost, his attitude follows right after. Concerns aside, I can't help with those. Those are things only he can fix, and it's definitely not by standing around here bantering.
Don't worry, I was just about to leave. Feel free to continue with your brooding once I'm gone. I'm not going to tell anyone. Cross my heart.
You think this is funny, Daisy?
Laughter is the only response I give him. With a slight wave of my hand, I end it right there and walk away.
TLDR, stop sulking, achievement unlocked.
Although I can't resist the urge to glance back before I leave, if only to have one last look at the man he really is. But the instant I turn my gaze on him, I see it. Looks like a different person. Looming, hovering over his shoulders, drawn to him like a moth to a flame. Doesn't it? Like the hair is different, it's not the same.
Yeah, it is bigger and like curly and floofier.
Yeah.
The face, it's hard to tell. The face
Yeah,
looks
it's
similar,
very
but
dark. Like the first time I've stepped inside this place in search of Isabella. He was there too, wasn't he? That man, along with his wife and another person, Miss McCullough? And that shadow. No. A woman now. Her. No longer a dark blur. Terror rushes through every vein in my body. A crippling sensation gripping every part of me, while she stares at me with a glare filled with nothing but hate and venom. It's like staring at the eyes of a woman I've unknowingly robbed of something precious. I try to say something. A warning. But before I can gather my wits and voice it out, someone shuts the door behind me, as if to keep outsiders away from the secrets this mansion possesses. The brush of fresh air against my cheeks does little to dampen the chill in my bones. By now the sensation, the fear and disquiet it leaves whenever I see her, is familiar enough for me. Already it has made a home in my nerves. I don't even notice my trembling hands until I cross my arms across my chest. The cold from the tips of my fingers seeps through the thick material of my shirt. Neither of it helps bring together some semblance of coherent thought in my head. But I know. I know I should.
Someone has to tell that douche.
I start walking back before fear can cripple me again. It's nothing. It's not wise. Returning, that is, especially after what happened. But Hana's still an old friend, and Luke? Luke doesn't deserve whatever misfortune that letter might bring. I can't just leave those two in there. Isabella's right. She's real, and there's something she wants from everyone who has read that.
Becca, where'd you go off to? If we're done here, let's go.
My mistake. The second his voice cuts through the crisp night air is that I've allowed my annoyance to get the better of me. Fuming, purpose forgotten, I whirl around and march towards him. One accusation after another piles up at the tip of my tongue, ready to be hurled at any moment. There's no hesitation holding me back when I fling it at him. That straight face he keeps as I do so doesn't help temper my anger either. It only makes me want to slap some more sense into him.
Shouldn't I be the one asking you that?
Becca, I've been waiting here the whole time since that mess in the hall. I told you I hate parties like...
And before that, where have you been the entire evening?
Right then and there, I might have forgiven him, if he's shown some ounce of remorse for leaving me like that. Maybe he could have looked away, given me a sign that my assumptions might be right. He doesn't even need to put them into words. A single gesture of confirmation is all I need. Rather, what I get is the same impassive look. He does that whether he can disclose. He does that whenever he can't disclose anything. He does that whenever he's lying. In the face of it, amidst the thick tension, a frustration huff. Wow, a frustrated huff is the only thing I can summon. No!
Way.
I'm gonna ruin the whole thing!
Suit yourself.
No more words. After everything I've seen and heard tonight, I'm already too exhausted for those. So without speaking any further, I simply walk past him and stomp over to his car. I read that wrong too. I don't know if you saw it. It only said stomp over his car.
I read it. I read it properly in my head and heard you read it wrong, but it was fine. Just keep going.
But what they wrote didn't make sense.
What you said did make sense, so it's fine.
Okay. Although before I can pull open the door, he calls out, one hand outstretched, a gentle weight on my shoulders.
Wait, Becca.
He pauses, his brows furrowing and lips curving into a slight frown. I can almost see the gears turning in his head while he tries to piece together everything he wants to say. Before, perhaps, I might have waited patiently for those. He's not a man fond of using words to express himself. More often than not, any gesture of honesty will only come out blunt and coarse when forced. But today, for one reason or another, I simply can't summon that forbearance.
Ashton, if you're just going to waste my time again...
Becca, listen. I don't know how else...
That much is obvious. Why don't you just take the whole bloody night? Go on. I can wait until next year. Better yet, why don't you just keep it all to yourself like you always do? It's not like...
Rebecca, will you hear me out first?
The silence I can offer him, but whether I'll believe what he's about to say is still up for debate. A very long debate.
I honestly don't know how else to put this. I'm aware your parents have some kind of history with Hana Wright, and somehow you're friends with her. But you should stay away from these people for now, especially the husband.
Who? Luke?
His expression deepens into a scowl at my mention of the name, but whatever opinion he has, he doesn't immediately voice. Still, something about it has greatly displeased him, evident in the stiff note his tone assumes.
Yeah, he's bad news.
It's my turn to frown this time. What does he mean by that? I would go with the bottom.
Yeah. I mean, they're both kind of like, what are you talking about sort of things, but...
Right.
Yeah, I mean... Care to explain your reasons seems... Like, he keeps saying this throughout the whole game.
Right, and he hasn't told anyone why yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Care to explain your reasons?
Oh, she actually said what it said.
I know.
I've not meant for it to sound as harsh as it does. But anger and frustration have never been a good match in me, particularly in nights like this. It's not surprising when Ashton jerks back as if I've struck him. For a fleeting moment, something akin to hurt darts across his features, his eyes narrowing and hands closing in tight into a fist at his sides. Then swiftly he glances away and shifts his focus on the line of trees nearby, like an answer can be gleaned from the dark expanse.
I'm really sorry, Becca.
What is it for? For the party? The vague answers he continues to give. Does it include all those times before this? The year's worth of it? I don't doubt its sincerity. However, at the moment, the forgiveness he's asking isn't something I'm all too willing to hand, furious as I am. It's frankly a wonder how I can keep myself from raising my voice at him.
We'll talk about this tomorrow. And you better have a proper answer for me by then.
There's a brief hesitation before I step away, a short moment of wanting to say more, of waiting if he has anything to add. He's only silent, eyes still trained at a distance. It is the last glimpse I see of him before I climb inside the car. If the door slams closed with the same force as the anger I'm holding, its sound merely vanishes into the night unnoticed. He follows soon after, and shortly we're on our way back to the city. Yet even with the city's bright lights welcoming us, the dense, somber air from the mansion still lingers.
The moon is almost at its highest by the time we reach Salem Well. Even after our respective heads have cooled off, the atmosphere within the car remains rife with unspoken tension. This isn't a problem so easily fixed with a few handshakes. Quite frankly, I don't know what will. Ashton himself has no idea what to do when he alights and dawdles awkwardly in the middle of the car park, unsure. It almost seems like he's having an internal debate, whether he should say goodbye or mutter another apology. I could have driven him away purely out of spite the second I've gotten off. Still, old habits die hard. It's late, and Ashton's flat is on the other side of the city. Irritation might still rear its head every time I look at him right now, but I'm not too cruel to put him up on another long drive, especially when he still appears as if he hasn't gotten any rest.
You can borrow the couch.
I throw the keys to my flat his way before a protest forms on his lips. Although he catches it with ease, he eyes it with weird expression and shoots a puzzled glance my way.
You haven't been forgiven. We're still going to have that talk, believe me. But I'm not about to send you out on another drive looking like that. It's late. Go get some rest.
We're setting aside a lot of loose ends like this, but he appears to have accepted that reason, at least in the meantime. He does give me another questioning glance when I shove past him, pulling on my mobile in the process.
Where are you going? I thought...
You go ahead upstairs. I need to contact Professor Andrew.
Andrew? Why would you... Oh, no. Please. Is this that thing Isabella said this morning? Again? I already gave her my word, Becca. I'll look into this BRC crap. No need to drag the old guy into it.
Of course, he's still skeptical. It makes me wonder if he's even seen anything at all. Figures this curse will stay away from the scoffer. This is another loose end tonight that I can't just leave alone, Ashton's beliefs notwithstanding. Just so happens that this one I can delve into using means other than taking a look at the mansion itself.
Ashton, do you really think I still give a shite after that stunt you pulled tonight?
No, but this is...
I've spent so many years with him to know this is about to turn into another argument. Before he can finish it, I cut him off with a firm raise of my hand.
Look, I don't care. There are weird things happening around here. And yes, it's Isabella's brand of weird. Ghostly voices, strange sounds, and a bloody woman sitting at the back of my car. You don't have to believe me. And I no longer have the patience to convince you, so just leave me be, Ashton.
He doesn't push it, growing quiet instead, although I know he has a whole case of it prepared inside his head. But there's a reluctant shift in his movement when he steps away from our conversation. Short of climbing the stairs, he stops, turns to face me with an expression almost too conflicted.
Are you really sure
What?
that there was something? That you've been, seeing things?
Yes, I'm very, very certain. Now go! And you better not break anything in there. The last time I let you stay over, it was that statuette Belle gave me. You haven't even replaced that one.
The last of my reprimand goes both unheard and unanswered as he disappears behind the stairs. If the things aren't as strained, he might have a quip or two about that, followed by a light banter. Instead, for a long moment, I am left staring after him. There's something in the way he asks it that nags. Coupled with his expression, the whole exchange just feels unsettling. One that doesn't fade even as I gather my thoughts and shift my focus on another, even as I dial Professor Andrews' number.
I feel like he's seen something and he was just passing it off as not seeing it. That's why he, asked her like that. You know what I mean?
Could be. I think his chapter's next. Maybe we'll find out. And that is when it clicks. During the long wait for the professor, one stray thought emerges from the unease. Ashton has not intended for his question to be a jibe. It's concern. For what, though? For my well-being? The letter's curse? The woman I mentioned? The answers for those will have to wait, however. Finally, the call connects, and Professor Andrews' voice echoes from the receiver.
Professor Andrew?
Rebecca? It's late. What can I do for you?
I know, I'm sorry, but this is a bit urgent.
After all, this is a more pressing matter. Our lives might be at stake, and we're all still in the dark.
Actually, I was wondering if I could ask you to do me a favor. ...
We don't get to know what it is? What's the favor?